What if Mary Magdalene was never asking us to escape the body, but to remember what lives inside of it? Welcome to the Magdalene Interview Series. I'm so excited today to share this conversation with you between myself and Asha, who, oh my goodness, this is going to be such an exciting conversation. Just before we came live, she connected with her lineage through this beautiful song and mudra, and I just am like already feeling so full and so grateful. These conversations have been so rich. If you're new to me, I'm Melissa Keenan, and I want to say this is maybe the 35th interview or something. We have so many beautiful pieces of wisdom and teachings and things that have come from all over the globe in relation to Mary Magdalene. So please tune in. You can see all of those on our YouTube channel. And I want to speak into, before we get going with Asha, just speak into the intention of what this show is all about. We're really widening the conversation around Mary Magdalene. There are so many traditions approaching Mary Magdalene, but unfortunately, what is prevalent across social media is a very white and narrow lens of what Mary Magdalene is. And so these conversations, oh my goodness, have brought us into so many corners of the earth, places in the underworld, places inside of ourselves, places where maybe we have never allowed ourselves to go, which tends to be Mary Magdalene's medicine specifically. And we're just glad you're here with us today. So please do share in the comments as we are, conversing. Share your thoughts, ask your questions. We'll come back. We'll check back in with these, and we're doing this. I am doing this in conjunction with an invitation to the south of France. So in September, I am taking a group of women to go and connect with some of the sites that are believed to be where Mary Magdalene walked. And she walked in sites that were already signified as ancient sacred sites to the divine feminine. And so we hope you'll join us. And if you're interested, please DM me. So without further ado, please meet Asha. Welcome today.
Hi.
Will you tell us a little bit about who you are and the work that you do? We'll start.
Oh my goodness. Sure. So I was trained as a molecular biologist and turned modern priestess. I know the juxtaposition of who I am. And turned modern priestess. And I remember I had this teacher who said, "Oh, your dharma type, your soul, you could call it archetype, but your dharma type is of priestess." And I was like, I know nothing. And I am so curious, like, what does that mean? Right. And this was like 21 years ago, actually.
Wow.
Yes. And so through that, my own journey, I think that honestly, like, I was just interested in my own healing. And I was just interested in how can me as a whole self steward these young kids that chose me as their mother. Mm-hmm. And that was really my only interest. And, I remember like my husband, who I've been married 25 years, and my husband would say, like, another training. And I'm like, yes, I don't know where this is leading, but I'm feeling that this is another step and another step. And so, I don't know, 15 years later, I developed this school called the Modern Priestess School, and then this framework of doing business differently called Sacred Commerce. And in that, this inquiry of like, what are all the ways in which we can open doors so that people can connect to their own cosmology, their own framework, their own roots, and come just a little bit closer to the divine in whatever form that means for them. I, similar to you, had a very dogmatic upbringing. I went to a missionary school, born again missionary school. And you can imagine, just like you, all the unpacking that I had to do of that indoctrination, that brainwashing. That's really what it was, right? And in that, I have a father who's Hindu, a mother who's Catholic. So the feminine lived in my home, that Shakti, But that wasn't the path that I chose at that moment in my life. And my parents were just very open, which I shared this with you, that they said, we don't care what, what religion or what belief system you have. It's just more that can you connect to something that is beyond this material plane? So the unpacking led me to holding space for people. And eventually my seminary work was actually about the relationship between Yeshua and Mary Magdalene.
Wow. So amazing. What a profound journey. And you also, I'd like to weave in right now. Tell us a little bit about you take people to India. So where did that come from?
Yeah. So I started taking people to different sacred sites throughout the world. And really like my interest is to take people to the sacred waters of the earth. I, take people to Egypt, Bali, Guatemala, and India has kind of become this way in which I bring people to my spiritual lineage. And my spiritual lineage is primarily what it is. It's called Sri Vidya, and it's primarily about the different expressions of the energy of the moon. Basically, like 16 expressions of the moon that all come together as that energy of the full moon, right? And Shakti or Devi or the goddess or divine mother or whatever name you want to give that energy of Sophia even is one, yet she has different expressions, similarly to how we can learn from the phases of the moon and how we can learn from each other, right? Because you are an expression of Shakti. You have your own Shakti, your own lived experience, and you express it very differently than me.
Yeah.
And so, yeah. So I take people there because there is power in connecting to an intact lineage. When you do it not from a lens of religion or patriarchy, but when you do it from a liberated lens, meaning that these specific practices are not here to convert anybody to one belief system. They're really intended for us to like sort of release and let go of what actually is not us, and to reroute and be more free.
I love that. We talked a little bit about this before we went live, about this element of connecting to a lineage that has remained intact, a lineage that that is revered, that is respected, and these elements of how we attach to that or not. I had a friend the other day who was like, she's a Black American, and she said, even me, I need to check how I am in relationship to yoga. And I really appreciated her, like, bringing that in. It's like, it doesn't matter where you come from. It's like, how are we actually being in relationship to other lineages, and just this element of like being invited in. And so the work that you do really carries such a sacredness, because you are inviting people into the lineage.
Yeah, we were saying how, well, it's like when you go into someone's home, especially when you go into a grandmother's home, how are you going to walk in there? You're not just going to barge in and be like, "Ooh, I like this, and I like this, and I like this, and I like this." You are absolutely going to be asking permission. You are going to absolutely be knocking on the door. You are going to walk gingerly. And then once you show your respect and your reverence, she's just going to like pour honey and love all over you, right? Like the abundance will just come right back, because these lineages that have been preserved and who have gone through rounds of colonization ought to be kept, right? Like, I think that is important that we have gatekeepers. And I know that there's people that say, like, well, it shouldn't be, spirituality shouldn't be that. It's like, yes, in an ideal world, absolutely. But if we all have this like very Western mentality of like me, take, then it would be stupid if we didn't have some
Right.
steps, right? Again, back to the home thing. If we're in a neighborhood, well, people break in, we're not going to be leaving the door open.
Yeah, right. Exactly. Oh, that's beautiful. I think that matters so much. So I'm so glad we've kind of like foundation lined this conversation with that piece. I'd love to delve more into your story. You had shared that Magdalene has guided you through the healing of both your mother and your father's line. I'd love to hear how that healing has unfolded for you.
Okay, so like, bear with me. I know that there are 200,000 contradictions in the world. And I know that something I say, when we're done talking, I will think differently.
Beautiful. I love that preface because we're allowed to change and we do change every moment. I love it. I love it. Okay, great.
And right now, I'm in a little bit of a soapbox related to how are we actually, like, what is actually how are we rooting into Mary Magdalene? Because there's a ton of channeled work. There is a ton of like just experiential work that happens when we walk the lands where she has been. And there's also, I know that there is like heart work and transformation and inner shadow work, if you want to call it that, that happens when we begin to engage with her. However, I do really always root back to her gospel as a way to wait, what did she actually say? And I know it's not complete. And I know that there are reasons why it's only partially there and that leaves for a lot of interpretation for all the other things. But the principle that really just like catapulted me to heal was her interpretation of obey your mother and father.
I don't know this. Please share. Oh my gosh, I'm on the edge of my seat.
And so, for those of us who've been indoctrinated into this, very religiosity of what that means, we have been taught a very specific thing of what that means. But what she says is that now this is not, or love your mother and father. This is not about you have to love them. This is about you have to revere and respect them. You have to respect them for the journey that they have been on. You have to revere that they were doing their best. And when you do that, that does not mean that you have to condone what they have done. That doesn't mean that you have to blindly love them. And, I had a friend of mine, because there's one of the temples that we're going to in India, that it's very much like, it's like the yoni of the goddess, like the womb of the goddess, right? And so in the womb of the goddess is where we face life and death and everything in between. And it's where she tells us what is, right? And so they speak of this temple as like, you can't go with your judgments. And my friend was like, oh my gosh, I'm going to go. And, I can't have judgments. And I'm like, no, this is not about ignoring that we have judgments. It's about leaning in and being curious of that idea that we have. Right? Of like, what is actually real? So this isn't about, let's ignore everything how we've been hurt.
Here, yeah.
It's not about ignoring. It's actually about going deep as you possibly can and still coming out on the other side, having reverence for them. Even if you don't speak to them, even if you don't speak to your parents, you can still have reverence for who they are as a human being, and also like understand that they are a soul as well,
Yeah, that's so beautiful. And I think in that I really see that reflected in my own journey and my own healing process, that when I was so steeped in religion, everything was very black and white and you couldn't have contradicting ideals. But the more I get in relation to the divine feminine, which has meant going into my body instead of bypassing it, like you just said, the more I realize, well, my body is holding contradicting thoughts and feelings all of the time. And so finding this comfortability with, these two parallels, like I'm sitting in that place exactly right now with my mother. So it's like, oh my gosh, what you're saying right now, like literally today, I'm on the phone with her and I'm like, okay. And at the same time, I am like, this is a tremendous human being. Like I see you and I need distance from you. And I
Mm.
hold both of those at the same
Mm.
time. And it's like we almost don't realize as humans how much we are capable of holding things that feel like they're in contradiction. Like two things can be true at the same time. So, wow, that's really beautiful.
And something that's popping in as you're talking is a couple of things. One is that anytime we let go, there is a part of us that dies.
Mhm.
And, can we have the funeral for that part that's dying, right? And can we have the honesty of like, yeah, that part is dying. And the other thing that pops in as you're speaking is that there are three energies, and in sort of the Vedic system we talk about three gunas. One is tamas, one is rajas, and one is sattva. Tamas is like, kind of, you can look at it as the energy of when we're in victimhood, right? When we're like, oh my God, nothing's right, everyone's wrong, nothing's about me and my own sense of responsibility. It's all, everything is out there. I'm not denying a system of oppression, but we all know that place of like, okay, two things can exist, right? Like there can be a system of oppression and I can be at the same time blaming the system for like
Yeah.
my entire existence, right? So that's tamas. Rajas is when you take movement, when you begin that exploration, like what we're doing and what I think Mary Magdalene in her interpretation of Yeshua's teachings, that she's inviting us to actually dive in, actually start transforming, actually connect to the feelings and emotions, and that how much power and agency we have to move that. And then the sattvic is when, maybe like they were like, okay, they maybe arrived at, I love my mother and father, right? That they don't have to put like these blockades like maybe you and I are doing, like, okay, I'm in a place of reverence. When we land in that place of being sattvic, and maybe we have moments of that, feel like the love, right? And that there is no separation, and that because and all those things can happen all at the same time, of course. But yeah, that was the other thing, because there's a tone to how we do this work.
Mm.
Yeah.
Wow, wow. So beautiful. Do you want to speak some more to, you said you come from Indian, Hindu, and then Venezuelan lineage, and how has your ancestry and your lineage shaped the way that you relate to your spirituality or your devotion or even your liberation?
I would say that, this discovery of the early Christian church, it feels in this moment that is less about me, and it feels more that it's the way that I honor my mother line,
Mm.
because my mother and grandmother were all devotees of a specific apparition of Mother Mary del Valle, which is what my middle name is. So
Wow.
obviously that lives in me. This lineage continues. And so for me, she has become this way of honoring the sort of Catholic path, And I mean, it's fascinating where she takes me, right? It's like she takes me to have a conversation with you. She takes me to take people to Glastonbury, and I'm always like, like, I'm not in my day-to-day spiritual practice with her by any means, but somehow she's like, no, please show up for me. Show up for me here. Say the thing that you want to say about me here. So that has been like a reconnection to that Venezuelan side, because our indigenous roots are pretty much wiped out. When the Spanish came to Venezuela, pretty much most of it from where my peoples are from has disappeared. And I know that there's a lot of people, the younger generation, who are doing a ton of research, even in Venezuela, same as here and in other parts of the world, that are kind of repatriating their own lineages, right? Like there's a boom in India that is like amazing, because it used to be that we would get information about yogic systems or Vedic system through teachers that came to the US, which would usually be people, unless it was like an actual realized teacher that was here, it would usually be foreigners, right? So we would be getting the teachings through a translation of someone who just has like another lens.
Right.
So that has been amazing. And so, of course, on the Sanatan Dharma, modern day Hinduism, my connection there is through my teacher, Guru Sakalamas, because sort of the practices that I do, that she initiates us into, are all based on Shakti, just the energy of the goddess. And that has been, I mean, the thing that I say is that when you go to the most intact system, you organically reroute. So it's not about like becoming a certain religion.
Right.
It's more that those practices that have not been interrupted through time and through, eras of colonization, are in service to your own roots, are in service to all of humanity. They're not separating us into like, oh, you're here, or you're here, or you're here. And also at the same time, as human beings, we're doing our part to be humble and to ask the permissions and to enter into certain places in the right way. And I just feel so lucky, because we get to go to places that are wild, that most people like have, face plants, because it's like, oh my God, the energy's too much. Like, people like can't handle it. But because we have this protection of this lineage, much of that is like kind of is erased, because there's this grace of this path of this lineage that we're lucky to be a part of. So
Wow. Oh, that's so cool. Just the way you even describe these moments and teachings and things with your teacher, I'm like so enraptured in like, wow, it just sounds so cool. And it's so neat that that you then bring this teaching and this work in with others. Um, I'm curious, like, I mean, I'm curious more about your personal relationship with
yeah.
Magdalene. Like, tell us like a surprising story or something that has happened with you in that relationship.
I mean, it's like one of those things that I think for a long time, she, like probably many, became the archetype of, oh, what if this wasn't the same way that we were taught it was? What if there is more to this? And even, because I don't know about you, but when I left Christianity, it was very much like, you're over there, I'm over here, and I'm going to go find truth in a completely different system because you really harmed me, right? And what she allowed was for me to reconnect again, for me to see that, oh, there was other things happening, right? Peter was trying to build a church, and he didn't want this Gnostic woman to be giving her opinions about what Christ actually wanted to happen in all of society. Like, he was like, I there's a politics, and I'm going to adhere to the politics. And she was having this like alternate experience of Yeshua in her own right, her own philosophy, because that's truly what Shakti does, right? It's like, you and I can read the same book, and the way that I feel it, or music for that matter, the way that I feel it is going to be mine. And that's, I think, what she allowed herself to be. Right. And so in many ways, I felt for me that she gave me that permission by being this heretic, right? In that time, it allows me to, at least at that moment in my life, it allowed me to feel like, oh, I can be totally different than somebody else. Yeah. I don't have to fit this mold. And it allowed me to, and I think the other ways that I'm experiencing her also is how I'm making the connections of the different traditions, right? I take people to Egypt and I see the parallels there, right? I see the way that it supposedly, I don't know that we really have historical evidence of it, but there's alternate historical evidence that they were initiated in the temples in Egypt. Christ, Jesus, was in India and in Tibet learning, like, all the things that he learned about love. These are very Buddhist teachings, right?
Right.
And so, and that is historical evidence that he was in India. Like, you go to India and there's like, oh yes, the prophet was here. And it is actually, there's a place in Kashmir where it is believed that his remains are. These are definitely alternate theories around what actually happened after crucifixion. I can't confirm or deny, but this makes you ask questions, right? And I think that is her biggest service in my life. Ask the questions. If they don't believe you, then you know what? Yeah, there is a point where you can't be there anymore and you have to go somewhere else. Whether it's France or Glastonbury, right? Yeah. Wherever it is that they will hold us and keep the mystery alive and nurtured. And I've been in the sort of spiritual plane in the communities long enough to have felt the surge of the goddess, and then the like retracting because of all the political things and some of the crazy things that we're all experiencing. And what I know for sure is that the goddess knows the cadence and the timing and the way and the titration of her wisdom. And even if we feel discouraged, that just means that retracting will only get us more nurturing the wisdom, nurturing the truth that we know. Because ultimately, no matter what practices you do or what you believe, it all ought to bring you back to your own discernment. Right? It can't be that we're then looking for something outside of us to say, is this the way it is? It has to become that there's this like something in us that says yes, and something in us that says, I don't know, let me go explore more. Let me go talk to other people and let me see what the resonance is. And you know what? If that resonance ends up being a contradiction in 10 years or in 2 months, that's also okay, because this isn't about a destination. This is actually about a dissolving ourselves into the divine. That's really what this is about.
gosh. Okay, we need to just like repeat that. It's not about a destination. It's about dissolving ourselves into, what did you say?
Into the divine.
Into the divine. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, right?
Yeah.
In whatever version that is for you. And, you know, again, the reverence that I have for my parents is like, they weren't like, you have to do it this way. You have to follow this path or this path. They said, you know what? This is yours. Where do you want to go? Where do you want to feel that this is God? And I'll tell you this thing. When I went to India in 2009, which I went with my family, it was my first time going there since I was a little girl. So I took my kids and we went for a month and visited family. I felt such a rejection to like in my body of all the Hindu temples. I only felt resonance in the Buddhist temples because that was the vibe that I was in. I
Yeah.
could feel I was tapping into more the energy of the people. I mean, I have a whole thing around like how we show up to the divine, which can be tamasic, right? It can be like please, 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 God, please, 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 right? And we don't have any agency in that. We don't have any work to do there. We're just like begging the divine to give us the things. And so sometimes and I was feeling a lot of that energy there. And I was like, I can't deal with this, right?
Yeah.
And so it's hysterical that I'm now like craving to go to as many temples as I possibly can in India. Or,
Wow.
I mean, honestly, the whole world, but specifically in India, because there's like offerings, there's a process, there is like such potent energy. And now, like, I have this whole path of going to see the 51 Shakti Peeths, which is supposed to be like the 51 aspects of the goddess. And so there's 51 temples. And coming back to your question around Mary Magdalene, been thinking a lot about this because I just took a group to Glastonbury and I'm like, I mean, I'm all like, I would sit all day long and talk about fairies and talk about and be in like ceremony on the land with Celtic people. Yet my people are like, take me, like, they want to know more about Mary Magdalene. So I take them to the places, right? And what I find just like fascinating is that it's not about a person, a historical figure.
Mm-hmm.
It is about the doorway that she opens.
Mm-hmm.
It is about the Black Madonna. It is about, so in our tradition, we see the goddess in three forms: the cosmic mother, the mother on this earth plane, and then the dark mother.
Oh.
So the dark mother is what she represents. She represents the messiness of emotions or transforming emotions, the messiness, the grittiness of life itself that, you know, in our pristine world, we're like, no, don't bring me a mess. Like, I just want everything to have its place. And she says, no, screw that. Like, you got to get in there. You got to go deep. You got to go far. You got to look in the crevices and then take rest, right? Because we can't be in that energy all the time. Take rest, go enjoy the earth, go enjoy like being, I don't know, like how we get lost in the cosmic world and the cosmic mother. But she does demand that we go in.
Yeah.
And the other thing in my whole respecting and giving reverence to the lineage of my mother is that I do have a thing with going to see the Black Madonnas wherever I can. And I was sharing with you that even in Salt Lake City, there is a Black Madonna, or there's a church, or there's I don't know if the whole church is for Mary Magdalene, but there is a definite statue of Mary Magdalene. And, you know, in Montserrat and in Portugal, I was just there. And Yeah, I love that connection. I don't know that I have conscious awareness of why that is happening for me or why she's tapping me. But I know that it's all intertwined, and I'm not aware of why that's happening right now. Yeah.
Well, I love what you said about like so often this approach that you're even seeing in your clients and your community, this approach to Mary Magdalene is so much less about like getting to know the nitty gritties of a historical figure, but so much more about a doorway, or I always refer to it like a mirror. Um, that has been exactly, you know, my experience with her, because it opens up some, every next layer opens up some part inside of me that I thought, or that the world told me I needed to shut away, or told my lineage we needed to shut away.
Mhm.
And opens up these parts of us, this wholeness of what it means to be a woman and a human on the planet today. So I really love that, and how beautiful this work that you're doing is. So magnificent, and all that you've poured and shared, I'm like, I'm gonna have to go back and re-listen. There was just so many nuggets and gems. And those of you again who are watching, whether on replay or on live, say hi in the comments. Let us know what resonated with you. And you know, as we wrap up today, I'd love to hear, tell us about what you're inviting people into right now, and how can people connect more with you?
India. Yeah, where I mean, this is like it's the trip to India. It really is. It is, it doesn't, I cannot imagine something deeper. If people are like me, where you want to go to the depth of the mystery,
Mhm.
that's what this trip is about. So the first part of the trip is we go to Varanasi, which is the most ancient city. It is believed to be the most ancient city in the world. And it is really not a city. It is a portal into those three phases, like the tamas, rajas, or sattva. And that place shows you which aspect you're needing to move to the next sort of phase. And then we go to the yoni of the great mother, the womb of mother. And then we spend 4 days in retreat with my teacher to learn practices that are meant to liberate you. They're not, again, that's why I love her so much, because it is rare to find somebody who wants to teach you practices, not so that you believe the same thing, but so that you come home to your own essence.
Mm.
And then we integrate in an Ayurvedic spa and meet local teachers in the area also. And I mean, Ayurveda is just amazing. I could spend a whole half hour talking about how you'll feel after doing that, but it just feels like a really beautiful way to integrate and close out such an epic journey.
That's so amazing. There's a few people who have come on to this show who, like, the way that they talk about these pilgrimages that they're leading, I'm like, oh, this is something truly unique and special. Like, there's, I don't know, and retreats that are just retreat for retreat's sake and things, you know, they have their place and that's great and
Yeah.
everything, but there are some of us who are like searching for these depths of experiences, and I'm just like so hearing that in what you're sharing. You'll have to go look up another woman that was on here, Alessandra Belloni, does pilgrimages to the south of Italy, and it's similar, right? Like proximity, and you're going
Mhm.
into circle with the drums, and many times it is Catholic, cathedrals and things that they're drawing people into, but the practice looks so different than what most people
Wow.
think of as, you know, Catholic
Yeah.
practice. They're still in close proximity with Black Madonna and with the Marys and everything. So that's another one. I'm like, oh, there's like a few where I'm like, these are like the primo, and yours is this way.
Thank you. And the thing is that I mean, I love retreats also, but there is something that we have done in other lifetimes of walking. And I know that people who feel drawn to India, they've been there before. right? They've been there before. And I know that those who like travel with me, they're priestesses in their own right. They are that conduit between the divine and the human, and each of us does it in our own way. But wow, to have priestesses who are actually rooted back to themselves, to me, is like, that is the gift that, at least for my corner of the world, that I want to be able to participate in, right?
Absolutely. That's absolutely it. And as somebody who's like new into the retreat space and things, this is the way that I hope people will feel in my retreat as well.
Um,
I think that the element of it's rare to find places and spaces where people are willing to honor the lived wisdom inside of all of the participants, as opposed to just like come and learn from my teachings. And it matters. It matters so much, because I don't think that, like, we don't need cookie cutter approaches anymore. We need this calling of the roots that are already inside of us. And yes, tools, and yes, learning from lineages and all of these things, but above all, if we're bypassing self, what good is it doing? It's not really bringing the peace that our planet needs. So thank you for the work that you do. And I do hope you all will go and connect with Asha. What a riveting conversation.
Oh.
Thank you so much. And we'll see you all next time on the next Magdalene Interview Series.
Thanks for having me.